نحمده ونصلي ونسلم على رسوله الكريم أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وأن هذا صراطي مستقيما فاتبعوه ولا تتبعوا السبل فتفرق بكم عن سبيله صدق الله العظيم. Honorable brothers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Allah Almighty has stated in the Quran that this is my straight path, follow it. And do not follow any other path, because that will separate you from me. The words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are true. Now the verse that I have stated emphasizes on the fact that the only true path is the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which has been expressed in the Holy Quran and which has been manifested and demonstrated in the life of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam. And every culture, society must be in alignment, or the humans who are living in those societies must try to ensure that their society, the culture, the practices that must be in alignment with Quranic teachings and prophetic practices. So the topic that I shall discuss today is the identity crisis of American Muslims. As we know that Islam is a religion which is a universal religion. However, Islam or the Muslims, most of the Muslims, they have come from outside of the America, and they face one of the most explicit challenges is the duality or the conflict between two cultures. So for instance, if Islam has come with the Moroccan society, with the Pakistani society, with any Middle Eastern society to America, so the youngsters who are born and brought up here and they are raised and schooled in American society and culture, they face the duality of two cultures. Muslim parents want that their kids should imitate them. They should cherish the values of Morocco, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Saudi Arabia, or any other culture. Whereas the American society, it's a school, colleges, universities, its society, its cultural expression, it emphasizes that whoever is living here, is being educated here, is earning his bread and butter here, they should cherish American culture. So the confusion arises for the youth is that on the one hand at home, their parents emphasize that there should be Pakistani Muslims, Indian Muslims, Moroccan Muslims, Saudi Muslims, or any other Muslim. Whereas the youth who attend schools and colleges, they share things with their peers, with their neighbors. They emphasize that they should be political. They should be American. They should be American. They should appreciate Americanization. And they should really be thankful to the American culture. So the youth, they face pressures. The youth at home faces the pressure that they need familial approval. They want that their family, their mother, their father, they should appreciate them to be good Muslims, to be good Pakistanis, to be good Moroccan, to be good Saudi, to be good that and that. And when they go back to school, their school teachers, their peers, they are there to appreciate them if they show their American love, if they express themselves in the American way of life, if they dress up like as the Americans do, if they speak the language, and language does not mean English here, if they express themselves in the American way, they would be approved. They would be celebrated. They would be considered as the creative member and the positive members of the society. So this is the challenge that our youngsters are facing. This is the challenge that our youth is facing every day, every hour, and we need to find out what is the right way. But before we do that, what may be the solution? What may be an idea how to overcome on the conflict of the youth? And look, my dear brothers, I'm talking about the conflict which is here in the mind of the youth. And those who have not gone through from that, they would have just no idea what kind of the pressures that our youth is undergoing. So in order to fully appreciate these two conflicts, you have to be in that situation. But we can have simply an idea that what kind of the pressures they might have been undergoing. So before we get to a kind of a solution, to an opening how to move on with our youth, is that what two kinds of the extreme practices emerge. Two attitudes emerge out of that. Number one is, under the pressure of familial pressures, what do the youth do? They adopt an extremist stance. They tend to interpret Islam from their familial background. For them, Islam means Pakistani Islam. For them, Islam means Egyptian Islam. For them, Islam means Moroccan Islam. For them, Islam means, let's say, any other Muslim country's name, okay? Because their parents have constantly been training and raising them according to their local traditions. A very clear example may be, what is the best way to express yourself in the dress? So the Pakistani born and brought up Muslim would say, wearing shalwar kameez is the Islamic way of dress up. But that's not true. That's not true. But this is how we are born and brought up. And this delicate issue or aspect has to be understood very well. Because if parents, teachers, imams, Muslim missionaries and scholars, they understand that, they could help the youth to stay on Islam, to continue to pursue Islam in their life, and to understand Islam in its right spirit. But if scholars, if imams, if parents cease to understand this reality, this subtle difference, which is very, very meaningful for the youth, then the future might not be as brighter for the kids and for the youth as we expect from them. So the one thing that I have identified is that the youth may take one extreme, and what is it? That they would try to understand Islam from Pakistani, from Moroccan, from Saudi, from Egyptian lenses, and that will be a fatal mistake. That will be a grave mistake. Civilizational mistake, I would say. Now, what is its outcome? The outcome would be that they have to face the challenge of societal approval. Because they live, they work, they get education, they play with their peers who are, from their head to toe, are American. And if you persist, and if the youth keep on persisting on this thing, that Islam means this, and I have to follow that, and that is simply a cultural. So the youth would be mistaken and might not defend themselves, and ultimately they might end up on some collapse in the future. All right? So we have to understand that. On the other hand, if the youth makes a decision because of the poor parenting, because of the poor Islamic training by the imams, by the scholars, by their role models, whoever they are, then what happens is that the youth starts hiding their identity. And they try to identify themselves with the American culture. They try to be more American because of the peer pressures that they have. Right? And then they start abandoning their religion. Okay? So both of these two extremes might not be acceptable and desirable from an Islamic perspective. Neither this nor that. And who stands responsible? So normally what we see is that we always blame the youngsters for doing this. However, I firmly believe that this is not a mistake by the youngsters. In fact, they have neither been cushioned nor been trained or raised in such a way that would help them to make a very appropriate decision at the right time. So it may be a poor parenting, a poor training, or a poor perspective. So the total responsibility does not lie with the youth. It still lies with the elders. It still lies with the teachers. It still lies with the trainers and the counsel and the people who give counseling. And the sooner we realize this fact, that we have not to blame our youth. We are not supposed to be blaming our youth for this, because it was us who actually emphasized on this fact that you are supposed to be behaving in this particular way, which was not an appropriate Islamic way. And then we might be propelling them, we might be pushing them towards the American culture, because the peer pressure may be far more severe than we expected from the other side. So what is the solution then? So one of the things that one understands is that Islam does not emphasize on the ethnicity that you come from. Islam does not emphasize the language that you speak. Islam does not emphasize the color that you come from. Islam emphasizes on righteousness. Islam emphasizes on God consciousness. Okay? And if you adopt the other extreme, that you pretend yourself to be a Muslim, but you're practicing one side of the Islam, okay? As I said, that the cultural Islam, what will happen? That you would not approve Islam. In fact, the Islam would be simple an external expression from your side, okay? You just want the social or the familial approval. You just want your father or mother to be appreciating you before their relatives that you are a good Muslim. So you would be emphasizing on getting a license. Getting a license from the parents, from the teachers, from the Islamic scholars, from the Maulanas, that they always celebrate you to say that, no, you're a good Muslim. But Islam has not reached in letter and spirit in their practices. So that Islam is not, of course, desired. So the Islam that is desired from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is what? That you should put it into practice in letter and spirit. And if you don't do it, then it is useless. Now, what is the best way? The best way is to blend both of them. The best way would be to offer 5 times a day and making sure that your aura, your satar is fully covered, and you do whatever the rituals demand you to do. That's it. It's not about Islamic clothings, okay? It's not about the way you conduct your prayer, okay? Many people emphasize on their very minute things, that after the end of this namaz, you are supposed to be doing that. I tell you one story, and that's very important to understand it. For this reason, blend is very, very important. One of the parents, they approached me and they said that their kid is not doing 17 rakat Isha prayer. And tell him, look, what is the tone? Tell him that 17 rakats of Isha prayer must be conducted. Look, you understand one thing, the arrogance of the parent, as if the Imam Sahib is your servant, paid servant. Well, we are paying you to tell our kids that this way. Number one thing, it's a very bad attitude. If you are treating an Imam like that, forget about your kids. Forget about your kids that they would be really normal people. And I feel mercy for the kids. If they are treating Imam who is outside, and they might come across him once or twice, and they say that, Imam, tell him that 17 rakats are obligatory. I said, okay. I said, hold on. Do you think that these kids and the children are the children of some angels who are living in the heavens? Or are they really your kids? My kids. I said that, why do you expect them to be angels? Since they are your children, they would follow you. How many times you have done 17 rakat Isha prayer in front of them in your entire life? And I think that explains the issue. I do not need to say anything. What was their response? What was his response? Are you getting my point? So do not treat your kids as if they are the children of angels. Treat your kids as if they are your children. And you have been making mistakes throughout your life. Even still, you make mistakes today also. And if you have this angelic image of your children that they are not on the right track of Islam, my dear brothers, that's a very wrong approach. You are making them stubborn. You are making them very reactive. You are actually throwing more pressures on them. So being parents, being teachers, you are supposed to be relieving the pressures that they are receiving on the other side also from their peers. And try to help them to negotiate these two conflicting ideas and make sure the correct teachings of Islam, which are cultural free teachings, they should be practiced. And for that, the only role model is neither the Imam Sahib, nor the scholar, nor this or that, the parents themselves. If parents fail to execute Islamic teachings to their kids, then forget about anything. You should not expect too much from them. If you lie, if you cheat, if you ill-treat your servants, okay? If you misbehave with your neighbors and colleagues and mates, then forget about that your kids would be nice, would be gentle, would be noble. And what do they follow? What do they imitate? Not what you say, but what you do. And do not portray yourself before your kids as if you are an angelic, prophetic personality which has no mistakes. And if we overcome on these attitudes, so it may not be a very religious problem. It may turn out to be a very cultural and personal problem. So many a times you think that this is very religious problem. Look, my children are facing cultural shock. They are not on the Islam. They are not true Islam. It may not be that religious. It may be very, very personal. Your assessments, your licensing, okay, that you are not on the Islam. Your licensing, your certificates every day from dawn to dusk, this exploit the children. And we have to be very, very cautious about our language and about our attitude towards that. So on this end, I conclude that the identity crisis that we see around the youth can only be met successfully if we blend the two attitudes. People can be American and Muslim at the same time if you come up with the right approach. The right approach says that pick up the crux of the Islamic teachings, and by wearing pants and shirts, you can be doing your prayer. By attending any secular schools, you can be fasting, but you should really be proud of that. You should really be very goodly, you should understand them very good and execute them. If you show your confidence in your faith, you can express it. And if you cease to do it, then the problems are there. But you cannot blame the youth, because the problem lies with the parenting. The problem lies maybe with this Qari Sahib. The problem might lie with the Imam Sahib. Problem might lie with the entire structure we use, with your social structure where you group together, okay? Where you sit and share your time and experiences with them. So we have to take a holistic approach in order to understand this issue. And on this end, I end, and let's have the sunnah, and we will do the congregation on that. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.